Hey everyone, today we're going to tackle something that's literally running our digital world behind the scenes, SQL. It's the reason your apps just work. We're going to break down exactly what it is and how it works, all in just a few minutes. Ready? Let's jump right in.
Okay, so have you ever stopped to think about this? How does Instagram know every single photo you've ever liked? Or how can Spotify pull up your favorite song from, millions and millions of tracks, just like that? It all comes down to handling a just ridiculous amount of information. And that's really where our story begins today.
All right, first things first, let's talk about what we're up against. Think of it like a giant, endless ocean of data. Every single day, you, me, all of us, we're creating this staggering amount of information. Now, this is a huge, huge challenge, right? But it's also an incredible opportunity. That is, if you know how to navigate it. I mean, just try to imagine a company like Google or Instagram for a second. We're talking billions with a B. Billions of data points every single day. Every like you hit, every search you type, every little click. So how do you store all of that so it's not just, saved somewhere, but is also super fast and easy to get to for millions of people all at once? Yeah, that's a massive problem, and it needs a really clever solution.
So what is that clever solution? How do they bring order to all that chaos? Well, the answer is something called a database. It's the elegant tool that makes it all manageable.
So at its heart, a database is really just an organized collection of data. That's it. You can think of it like a giant, perfectly organized digital filing cabinet. Or here's an even better one. Imagine a school attendance register, where every student's info is laid out in these neat little rows and columns. The key word here is structure.
Okay, but here's the thing. We don't just go rummaging through that filing cabinet ourselves. Nope. Instead, we talk to a manager, which is basically a piece of software called a Database Management System, or DBMS for short. And this DBMS, it's like a super helpful librarian. You just walk up and tell the librarian what you want, and they go into the archives to find it for you. You never have to get your hands dirty.
Now, you should know there are a couple different kinds of databases out there. On one side, you've got what are called relational databases. This is where data is kept in those super neat tables, just like our school register. On the other side, you've got non-relational databases, which are, they're more like a flexible folder where you can just toss documents in without a super strict structure. For today, we're going to focus on the organized ones, because they speak a very special language, SQL.
And that brings us right to SQL. So if the database is the library and the DBMS is our librarian, then SQL is the exact language you use to ask that librarian for what you need.
Yep. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it's basically the universal language for talking to these relational databases. It's not like you're having a conversation in plain English, but its commands are super clear, super direct. They're designed to be instructions that the DBMS can understand and carry out perfectly, every single time.
So what can you actually do with this language? Well, it really boils down to just four main things. First, you can create new data. Think about signing up for a new Instagram account. Then you can read it, which is just you scrolling through your feed. You can update it, like when you change your bio. And finally, you can delete it, like getting rid of an old post. That's pretty much the whole shebang. Create, read, update, and delete.
Okay, theory is one thing, but let's actually see how this works. We're going to write a really simple instruction, they call it a query, to ask our database a direct question.
Okay, so check this out. Imagine our database has this simple little table of student information. We've got their ID, their name, and the city they live in. See? It's clean, it's organized, and it's just sitting there ready for us to ask it some questions.
All right, so let's say we want to find all the students who live in Delhi. We would write this query. It almost looks like an English sentence, right? Let's break it down. We're saying, select the name column from the students table where the city is Delhi. Pretty straightforward. And boom, just like that, the database gets it. It instantly filters through all the data and gives us exactly what we ask for. It returns only the names of the students from Delhi, Aman and Arjun. No more, no less. Perfectly precise. And that right there is the magic of SQL. It lets us pull a tiny specific needle out of a giant haystack of data. It turns all that chaos into a clear, useful answer. Honestly, this is the engine that makes searching, filtering, and sorting pretty much all the information on the internet even possible. All right, so as we wrap this up, what are the big things you really need to remember? Let's boil it all down. Okay, just remember these three things. The database, that's the organized library for all the data. The DBMS, that's our friendly librarian who manages the whole thing. And SQL, that's the special language you use to ask the librarian for exactly what you need. Library, librarian, and language. If you've got that, you've got the core of it.
And that leads me to one last thought for you. Now that you kind of get the language of data, just imagine for a second, if you had access to any company's database in the world, what's the one question you'd ask? What secret would you want to find out? See, the real power of SQL is that it gives you the ability to start asking those kinds of questions. Thanks so much for watching.